Hello everyone, I'm Shamilo, and in this video, I'll be showing off some Theorycraft skills and weapons that I've created for Fire Emblem Heroes. I haven't uploaded in around 3 years, and that is because I've been very busy with my personal life and also been doing some other stuff in the meantime. But without further ado, let's get right into these Theorycrafts. First off is Heavenly Light Plus, which is an evolution from Heavenly Light. This special has been on many demotes, GAF units, and I think it's time to make this skill more useful. It's still a 2 cooldown special, but now when healing an ally with a staff, it restores 20 HP to all allies, including the target ally, and neutralizes any penalty on those allies. This is basically odd or even recovery in a healing special, but it affects all allies instead of just the allies within 2 spaces at the start of turn. It could also be a nice alternative to recovery skills, since these skills can actually be stopped by Elamine with her false start. It would also make Heavenly Light be a lot more useful than it actually was, since the normal Heavenly Light only heals 10 HP to all allies, but that's not including the target ally, which is kind of weird because the wording is at that point incorrect. But units like August and Elamine could use this skill really well, since all they really do is support. It would also be good on any other support units who generally just don't want to fight and stay in the back. Whilst August and Elamine both have an assist healing skill that doesn't really charge as special, they both actually have good defensive stats to at least take hits if needed. Up next is Axe Slayer Plus. This is a weapon that can only be equipped by axe users. This axe is actually effective against axe foes and has green feud built into it, which prevents green foes from supporting or being supported. It also inflicts a spectrum -4 on that foe if they're green. This weapon would have an amazing combo with Axe Breaker, since that will double down on defeating axe foes. It also would be very nice to have if you already have a feud skill in the C skill, allowing to cover half the colors with feud. While this weapon might not be the greatest for players, it could be a nice challenge if they were on the enemy team. Attack Speed Discipline is an A skill that evolves from Attack Speed Ideal 3. If units' HP is 50% or higher, or they have a bonus active, they gain attack speed +5 and a bonus to attack speed during combat, equal to the current bonus on their stats. This effectively is attack speed ideal 3 and bonus doubler on attack speed in one skill, whilst also having an easier HP condition being 50% or higher instead of 100. This skill would be great on units who can buff themselves, like legendary female Byleth or Hugh. It would also be a real overkill if they have a weapon that has built-in bonus doubler, or they gain the bonus doubler status on top of that. Attack Defense Paragon is a skill that evolves from Attack Defense Catch 3. This has the same idea as the Discipline skills, but with this, if foe's HP is 75% or higher, or if foe has a penalty active, unit gains attack defense +5 and a bonus to attack defense equal to the current penalties on foe's attack defense. This skill will allow units with debuffs to truly benefit from them, turning the enemy's debuffs into buffs for yourself. Units with menace, snags, or ruses can easily benefit from this skill, and also in a big way. Whilst additionally, the HP condition is easier, from 100% to 75% or higher. Units like Duel or Micaiah with a menace skill could actually be very tanky with their respective stats. Whilst Micaiah's weapon already has that built in, this will allow the penalties to basically double for her. And for Duel, it will make her more defensive. Attack Rev's Hazard is a skill that evolves from Tier 2 dual threats. Well, it will inflict attack res -6 on the nearest foes within 5 spaces, and any foe within 2 spaces of those foes. This skill would be amazing for ranged cavalries with catch skills, since not only will they be able to reach them with this skill and also attack them on the same time, It will also allow it for defense purposes and purposes where you get to allow yourself to act multiple times. Since foes nearby will also be inflicted with the same penalty, which makes a catch very easy to trigger. Whilst this doesn't actually grant self buffing, it honestly makes up with the splash effect with the penalty. Units like Happy or Harmonic Leaf could use this very well. Happy could use this, inflicting the penalty and then attacking with the catch, allowing her to actually then take them out. And then anything that will attack her in enemy phase will just die from counter, because one, she's getting more rest, it's gonna be harder to kill, and also she's getting more attack at the same time. Whilst with Leaf, he can inflict the penalty, he can attack, his Neon Zeal could actually trigger and could actually allow him to take out another foe if they're nearby, since they will also be inflicted with the same penalty, allowing them to be killed easier by Leaf. Attack Speed Closure 4. This skill is inspired by Elm's weapon, where he gains ability based on how many enemies are nearby him. This skill will grant attack speed plus X, where X is 3 plus the number of foes within 3 spaces, times 2, max 9. Automatically, this skill will give attack speed plus 5, since you will always be against one foe in combat. And with 2 more foes being nearby, it will actually grant plus 9. This skill would actually be really great for melee units, and also melee units who are specifically trying to take out near save units, since the unit that is saving and the foe that is being saved are basically treated as 2 individual units, making it count as 2 units for the closure, meaning it will gain plus 7 automatically. Attack Speed Oath 4 is a skill that evolves from Tier 3 Oath skills. Whilst Tier 4 Rouse skills additionally grant you no panic and no additional stats, I wanted to do the same thing with Tier 4 Oaths, but I wanted to do grant something more unique, that being Grant Strategy. It's a Spectrum Unity effect as a status. You've probably seen it on the duo Chrom, the Valentine duo Chrom, whose duo skill can inflict a Spectrum -5 on himself and allies nearby, whilst also granting the status effect to basically gain plus 5 to these stats. Whilst this skill does have its downfall because you need to be adjacent to an ally, the reward you get from it is very worth it, turning all penalties into buffs for a whole turn. This can stack with Unity A skills or similar effects on the weapon, allowing you to almost turn your debuffs into triple the buff. Attack Speed Rogue is a skill that evolves from Attack Speed Smoke 2. First of all, having a dual smoke would actually improve the smoke skills by a mile. Inflicting a total of -10 to stats on foes around the target is great, but rogue skills take that to another level. Rogue skills will inflict -6 instead of 5 compared to the Tier 3 dual smokes, and will actually inflict a total of -12 effectively to the target and foes within 2 spaces. The only difference with this skill and the smoke skills is that this will actually inflict the penalty on the target itself, which is what the smoke skills originally doesn't do, whilst additionally also granting +6 to those stats to unit and allies within 2 spaces of unit. This is literally the rogue dagger in a skill. This may not be the greatest since menace skills are still better in most cases, but this provides a better debuff and buff at a little bit harder conditions as you need to attack instead of being at start of turn, but it's honestly worth it if you want to support. Beast Wall 3. This skill is actually very similar to Dragon Wall. Where Dragon Wall is a res-based dodge skill, Beast Wall is a defense-based dodge skill, and can only be on beast units. Now there are a lot of beast units that have a lot of defense, especially New Year Keaton and New Year Kaizo. They both have a very high defense and are able to gain even more. With their special ability of dealing more damage or gaining more special charge, it will allow them to be a true tank against physical units. Blade Session 4 is a skill that evolves from Blade Session 3. For the base effect, I gave it an upgrade of attack speed plus 2 on top of its base effect compared to Blade Session 3. This will make it where you can gain up to attack speed plus 11, but that's not all. I additionally gave it if unit initiates combat after at least one ally has acted this turn. It will also grant special cooldown charge plus 1 per unit's attack. This would allow flying and cavalry units to gain a special charge without using heavy blade. They can't use flashing blade. Remember that, since they can't. They straight up just can't. So having this skill would be a nice alternative, since that will make them truly stand out. Shield Session 4 is the same idea as Blade Session 4, where this evolves from Shield Session 3. As the other one, I had added plus 2 to the base effect, allowing for 11 defense res. But additionally, I gave it the same treatment as the Blade 4 session, where if the foe initiates before 2 other foes have already acted, it will grant special cooldown charge plus 1 per foe's attack during combat. This is basically half of a breath effect, but this will allow units to use a good breath effect and gain a lot of defensive res, instead of just gaining defense or res plus 4 from the breath, seal, or A skill. This will effectively grant a lot more defensive stats, which is the main purpose with these skills. Well, this skill might not be the most consistent, and that's mainly the problem with these skills. It still is a direct upgrade from what it is, and I think that makes it worth it. Guard Session 3. This skill is basically a dodge skill, but with a session condition. At minimum, this skill will provide 20% damage reduction during combat and from air effect specials, but at most it can reduce up to 60%. For player phase, it has the same condition as Blade Session, where you gain 20% more damage reduction for every ally has already acted, up to 60%. But for enemy phase, it has the same condition for Seal Session, where you already have 6% damage reduction, but it goes down by 20 for every foe that has acted. This would be great on tanky units who are slow, or units who can't have damage reduction skills at all, since this session skill is actually inherent to any unit. Units like Brave Ike or Itsuki could use this very well. Mainly Itsuki, since his weapon is a dual phase session effect, where it's only attack and defense. So adding up to it will make it seem like gaining plus 7 attack defense and 60% damage reduction if it works on both phases. Whilst for Brave Ike, it could just extend the damage reduction to a ridiculous amount, 60%, 30%, and 40% from first hit, and 80% from the second hit. Don't forget, this has a Vital Astra, so just keep that in mind. Broad SR Ploy is an evolution from Speed Res Ploy 2. First of all, I made a dual Ploy skill. This would make the skill more neat. From -5 on a single stat to -4 on 2 different stats. That alone is better for a lot of things, allowing for better offense or defense or both even. But for the upgrade scroll being the broad ploy, it makes it -5 to those stats, and widens the range from cardinal to 3 entire rows and 3 entire columns. This would be great on penalty inflictors, or units who mainly are trying to be support units with a lot of res. It allows certain units to function a lot better and make them become a spectrum debuffer like Arvis with his Valve Flame, since that already inflicts attack res -5 on the same radius. With broad SD ploy, it would allow him to inflict a -5 on all stats on those foes, but you still need the more res in order for it to work. Joint Attack Tactic is a skill that evolves from Attack Tactic 3. This is basically the same as Attack Tactic 3, but it will also grant the bonus to the units themselves, if they are in the same tactic condition, that is. However, The unit does not have to be within 2 spaces to gain the buff himself. This would be a huge upgrade from wave skills, since not only are those skills turn restricted, that being odd or even, it also provides better support to allies since it's 2 spaces instead of 1. But it still has the tact condition, which honestly just comes down to having a hybrid team or the correct team. This would allow Blade Tome units to become a lot better, or units like Erica or Bridal Soniki, since Soniki can gain the attack buffs from allies with her Nifl Frostfire, and Sieglind from Erica could just gain the buffs from allies, whilst also providing herself some buffs to begin with. Speaking of Blade Tome units, Null Indignance 3. This is a skill that disables foes' dull and lull effects, and also the effects that neutralizes their own penalties. This skill will be amazing on units who actually benefit from their own buffs or from foes' buffs, since this skill prevents the neutralization of either. Blade Tome units no longer have to worry about the dull or lull effects, and will always gain their attack bonus if they have it. Obviously, Panic is a status, but that could easily be stopped with no Panic. Units like Leviathan and Nino could actually use this very well, since they can actually gain their buff and no longer lose it. Null S-Charge 3. This skill is basically part from Creator Sword, where it will prevent foe from gaining extra special charge, and it will also neutralize the unit from losing special charge. Basically, it stops guard on unit and blade/breath on foe. This skill is what a lot of units want these days, since guard and breath are basically everywhere. Fallen Edelgard is a main example since she has both with her armored wall. We have breath seals, and we also have units like Thor, so this skill would really prevent those effects from taking action, and will honestly make life a lot easier. Parry 3 is a new dodge variant skill that I've created. This has guard 3 as the additional effect, but it's still like a little niche. So this skill, if unit speed is higher than foe speed, it will reduce the damage from attacks during combat and from effect specials by 4% for every speed unit has more than foe, up to 40%. And then additionally, if unit's HP is 80% or higher, it will inflict guard on foe. Whilst this is straight up just guard 3 on a dodge skill, this would still be an amazing counter to the specials or effects that neutralize damage reduction skills like Deadeye and Lethality. This would also be a really great skill for units to have a null guard effect in their weapons, such as Malice. And lastly, our Duel Armored 4. This is a dual A skill that is made for armored units. Whilst the Tier 3 only gives 175 BST for Arena, Tier 4 will give 180 BST to Legendary and Mythics, and 190 to non-legendaries and mythics. Now you're probably wondering why I decided to go 180 BST for legendary mythics. Well, if you really think about it, our first ever legendary pair-up armored unit was Legendary Edelgard, whose dual effect was actually 180, so this would make total sense and it makes it completely fair as well. This would also allow old armored units to be used more in Arena. Whilst this skill is very balanced, since most A skills are just distant counter or something along this line, maybe distant defense 4 for safe units or close defense 4 for the same purpose, this skill would actually be really balanced since this provides stats and doesn't provide a broken effect for units who generally are not meant to be used in Arena. This will allow them to be used in Arena more often. And that was the end of my Theorycraft video. I hope you enjoy these kinds of videos, because I generally want to do more of these, because I actually have a lot more ideas that I kind of want to make. I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Promise Me One Thing and Prudy. These two have inspired me and also have been giving me the encouragement to make this video. I highly suggest you watching them, because they do some amazing Fire Emblem Heroes content, and also other gacha games. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Good night.